for the kingdom. Let's get a view on all of this now from Andreas Krieg in London. He's an assistant professor at the Defence Studies Department at London's King's College. Good to have you with us once again, Andreas. Is this the beginning, do you think, of Saudi Arabia becoming toxic as far as Western companies wanting to do business with it, particularly in terms of its image?
Absolutely. I mean, these are all PR companies who have decided to work for Saudi Arabia, which always had a very terrible human rights record. Nonetheless, the current affair, the current Khashoggi Affair, and the tragedy, the personal tragedy of this, the horror, the outcry that you see across the spectrum by think tankers, academics, by the media, policymakers, doesn't really allow any wiggle room right now or deniability. And I think I think Richard Branson was one of the first ones to basically drop out of the Davos in the desert. And he kind of, that was had a domino effect. Bit by bit, most companies have basically withdrawn. Now the American government has withdrawn. That is America. Now this wave is coming to Europe, and I think companies that used to work directly for the Crown Prince have now are under pressure at least to pull out. And it might not be necessarily the pressure to work for Saudi Arabia, which has been always very critical, but it is particularly critical when you are connected to Mohammed bin Salman, and he's running the show, and he's also running this massive PR war across the Western world, in all dimensions. The PR wars to defend the Yemen war, there's a PR war to basically get people to invest in Saudi Arabia, there's a PR war for tourism, making people coming to Saudi Arabia, showing that it's actually an open country, which it is not. So a lot of this has been a spin war anyway, but the spin war has somewhat spun out of control, because right now that all these narratives that have been invented and have been broadcast for the last 18 months have now suddenly collapsed, and the entire house of cards that has cost millions and millions of dollars for the Saudis is suddenly in ruin. And I think it becomes very, very difficult for any credible Western company to emerge from this standing with their head held high.
As far as this change in Saudi narrative is concerned, though, today, concerning the death of Jamal Khashoggi, it seems that the strategic communications focus is to somehow try to remove the blame from the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Is it going to work?
No, I think it won't. But here's it depends on who your audience is, really. I mean, if the audience is the wider public and the media, then I think it's not going to work, because the evidence is overwhelming, as one of the reports already stated. I mean, the evidence is out there to such a massive degree that it doesn't leave any more rooms for lies. But here's the thing, and I think it's very critical. I just came back from Washington, and it seems, despite the fact that lobbyists over there and also bipartisan policymakers are not buying the story, it's key here that the Trump administration, which has been the main facilitator for Mohammed bin Salman and the main protector of Mohammed bin Salman, is still buying it. And Pompeo went to Saudi Arabia to basically discuss how to move forward on this and how to keep him in power, also realizing that there is no alternative to him at the moment. That's another problem. But how to move forward, coming up with a narrative that provides them with plausible deniability. And it's not about what people are actually believing, but it is what Donald Trump thinks is moral to get away with. And as long as he sits in front of the camera and saying, I don't care about this, I buy the story, and it's a tragedy, but the Saudis are taking, this will have consequences, and the Saudis are taking action. As long as he can sell this to his voter base, which he seems to be able to do at the moment, as long as this happens, I think Donald Trump is not going to make a move. So it's key here how Congress and Senate will keep the pressure on. The same is true for Britain. Britain right now, the Saudis know that post-Brexit needs the money, and they have thrown around a couple of dollars, but have made massive promises that they will definitely not be able to keep, if you're aware of the financial constraints Saudi Arabia is under. But the British government here is very much hamstrung. They need the investments. They see the Gulf as a market post-Brexit, and they can't afford just losing out on what seems to be very lucrative. So they're all, again, looking for a narrative that they can sell. It is quite obvious that what has been produced last night is a lie, and it will not hold up in court, and the evidence will come out eventually. But those people, particularly the British government and the Trump administration, they are looking for ways to basically keep the momentum going of deniability. I think the German government and the government in Paris, the French government, have taken a different road. They've said, we don't need that money. For them, this whole economic interest of dealing with Saudi Arabia, dealing with Mohammed Salman is not as important. And they will come out quite on the other side and make a very stark statement and saying, we want more evidence. Anyway, the Turks have the evidence, and the longer as this is going on, this deniability and then salami tactics of releasing further evidence, as long as that is going on, I think eventually the Turks will release the tapes, and that will bring this entire pressure mounting on the Trump administration of not being able to deny this anymore.
Andreas, good to talk to you. Many thanks indeed for being with us.
Thank you.